Hello students, this is Ms. Cave with a lesson on evaluating expressions. We looked at some models with x values and positive and negative ones to model expressions, and now we're going to talk about how we do it using pencil and paper. So these are our doodle notes. So as we're going through the notes, you can, as long as you're listening, you can do some doodling as you go, but please make sure that you're paying attention to what we're learning. And we're going to go over how do we evaluate expressions. We evaluate expressions. This is an easy transition from what we've been learning about with order of operations, except for now you notice we have variables instead of just numbers. So in this case, like this first example, we have a value given for A and a value given for B. And so those are the numbers that we're going to use to evaluate this lengthy expression here. So let's start talking about the steps. So our steps when we're evaluating our expressions are going to be, step one is we are going to plug in the values. Okay, so that's our first step. Oh, and by the way, at the top, we're going to name this. What we do is we replace and simplify. So our first step is to plug in our values. And so we're going to go ahead and do that first step. I'm given A is equal to 4 and B is equal to 6. When I have two letters next to each other, that means I'm going to do what? Multiply. So that's going to be A times B. So I'm going to take the 4 that's given. I'm going to use a dot for my multiplication. I'm going to put the 6 here plus 6 for B. Make sure that you're putting your parentheses back in as you replace. You're putting everything back in with the exception of the variables. They're now numbers. So 2 times B is 2 times 6 minus 4. All right, so now that we've plugged in our values, our number 2 here, our number 2 step is going to be what? How are we going to solve this? We're going to follow the order of operations. So our next step, step 2, is to follow order of operations. Okay? So now we're just going to do that. We're going to follow the order of operations. So you're going to do that along with me. So what would be the first step? And remember the order of operations, we have grouping symbols, exponents, multiplication or division, and then addition and subtraction, which are the other notes that we did that you should have in your notebook. So what's going to be the first step here? Brianna? So we go to the grouping, but within the grouping we have multiplication and addition, and we're going to do the multiplication. So we're going to do the 4 times 6. And if we simplify that, what do we get, Brooklyn? What's 4 times 6? 24. 24 plus 6. Now this is important. You need to keep the grouping symbol there. Because if you don't, you're going to end up dividing 6 by 15. So keep your grouping symbols until you've simplified everything inside of them. So this is a really long one, but it's not hard as long as you go step by step. All right, so now what am I going to do? Myra? We're going back to the grouping again, the first grouping, and we're going to do 24 plus 6, and what would that be? 30. So now we have 30. Now I'm not bringing down my grouping now because I've done everything. I've simplified what's inside the grouping symbol. So 30 divided by 15 plus parentheses 2 times 6 minus 4. So what's going to be my next step? Angel. 2 times 6. So we go to these parentheses now. We have a second set of grouping symbols. We're working left to right, but those come next. So I'm going to rewrite my problem, but I'm just going to do what I've highlighted here. I'm going to leave my parentheses though. 2 times 6 is 12, and then I have 12 minus 4. So what's going to be my next step? What's my next step here? Isaiah? 12 minus 4. Because I'm in my parentheses. So now it's 30 divided by 15. And what's 12 minus 4? 8. So now my next step, I have division and I have addition. Sanjayla, what comes next? Division. So I'm going to do 30 divided by 15, which is 2. And 2 plus 8 is 10. All right. So the important thing for number 3 to note down here, the other thing we need to do is make sure that we write our answer in simplest form. So if it's a fraction, you have to simplify it. But we are going to go ahead and write that there. Write answers in simplest form. Now we don't have a fraction this time. We have a whole number. But if we did, we would have to simplify it. Okay? Write answers in simplest form. So let's go ahead and try the 2 examples at the bottom. So we're going to move up here. And this time we're given different values. We're given x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2, and z is equal to 5. So our first step again, if we look at our rocket ship here, is to plug in our values. So I'm going to do that now. So I know that y is 2, so I'm going to plug in 2 squared plus x is 1, z is 5. And then I'm going to do my 2 squared, right? Because that's my exponent. Actually, I'd probably do the 1 plus 5 first. But I want you guys to see something. I want to show you. This is a little shortcut. You have 2 groupings, right? You have 2 squared and you have 1 plus 5. Because remember, our grouping is our fraction bar. That's a grouping symbol. So I can go ahead and simplify both of these in one step because they're on either sides of the grouping symbol. So what's 2 squared? 4. And what's 1 plus 5? 6. So I get 4/6. But then remember the next step, we need to write answers in simplest form. So we're going to simplify 4/6, and 4/6 is equal to what? 4/6 is equal to 2/3, so my answer is 2/3. And I get 2/3 by dividing both of these numbers by 2. You guys good? Make sense? All right, it's the same thing we're doing, it's just now we're adding in the variables. So the next one, go ahead and plug those in. Go ahead and try it. So you're plugging in your values. And this one's probably going to take some space. I would try to like put it up here. So I'm going to do it on my own while you are doing it, and you can check up here to look. So all I did was take this information here and I plugged it in for the variables. I substituted, just like we did with the models when we substituted the numbers by rolling the dice. Now we're being given the numbers and we just plug them in. And so again, for this one we have our grouping symbol here and we're going to just do what's there. So I'm going to look at the top first. And on top, I'm going to do 2 times 2. So I'm going to get 1 plus 4 times 5 over 2 times 2 plus 4 minus 5. Next, I'm going to go ahead and do 4 times 5. I'm going to write it right next to it to have room. 1 plus 20 over 2 times 2 plus 4 minus 5. Oops. Okay, see what I did? I just simplified each step. What's that? Didn't I do that? What? On the bottom, it's minus 5. It's minus 5. So then the next step, I'm going to use this here for my line so I have room. So now I'm going to do 1 plus 20. I'm just solving the top grouping first. 1 plus 20 is 21. And I'm going to write that over 2. 2 plus 4 minus 5. And then now I'm going to do what? The bottom. What am I going to do? 2 plus 4. So I'm going to have 21. I'm going to rewrite it over 2 times 6 minus 5. And now what am I going to do? 2 times 6. I'm going to go to the next row. 21 over 12 minus 5. So now I'm going to do what? Brianna, are you getting this? What's next? 12 minus 5. So this really long problem ended up being pretty easy in the end. 21, what's 12 minus 5? 7. My last step is just to evaluate 21 divided by 7. And my answer is going to be what? 3. Make sense? Okay. So what you guys have on the other side are 3 problems. That's your homework. You can start working on them now. You've got 3 problems to try, and we'll go over in class tomorrow, so make sure you get those done. All right, that's it. Have a great day. So go to pause.